Good day, everybody, and welcome to 20 Minutes on Ice, powered by the Garage Door Sports Network. I'm your host, Ryan, and as always, in the co-host position is Nick. We've got a great show coming up for you today, so let's get right to the opening face-off. Today on 20 Minutes, we will be previewing the Central Division, not the South Division, as I had been calling it earlier. It's the Central Division for the 2021 NHL season. Again, we'll be looking at the teams that we think will succeed, fail, and maybe there's going to be some teams that will surprise us. We'll also be providing our predictions for the division, and we'll close out the show with the randomizer, as we always do. Joining me for this episode is my co-host, the last official owner of a Nokia cell phone, Nick McVicker. Nick, how's it going?
Pretty good, and that cell phone will always be in my room. What can't get rid of that thing? That was the first phone I had.
Nokia was huge when I was coming of age. They were the cell phone company. They made bricks of phones. Oh, yeah. And then I
had the flip one.
I remember getting my first flip phone when I was about, I guess, 16 or something, and it had like the pull-up antenna and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was really, really cool. And yeah. Now
it was back then.
It was the phone to have
back then.
We are in the new year. It's 2021 finally. I mean, we have things to look forward to. Talk about starting off on a weird foot. Zdeno Chara deciding not to go back to Boston and will sign in Washington 1 year. What was it? 795,000, I believe. It's going to, I really thought he was either going to be Boston or bust. And it turns out Boston couldn't make it work this year.
Yeah, I was, to say I was floored when I saw this news is a bit of an understatement. It is going to be really weird watching him play for a team not called the Boston Bruins. Like, I know he played other places before, but since then, like, I can't see it. I can't believe it. And it also doesn't make sense for the direction that Washington is going to bring in a big, slow defenseman. Like, that goes against what they're trying to do. And now you're like, okay, well, we're just going to bring in Zdeno Chara because it's Zdeno Chara. Like, why? What's the point of that?
Nick Kypreos speculated that they promised him. He only speculated that they may have promised him top 4 defensive time. But they're kind of set in Washington. Like, I don't see how he maintains a spot in their top 4. I mean, it's great depth to have. You want to have depth on D, especially heading into the playoffs. But I guess Washington was just a team that was there, and Chara's obviously looking to win a Stanley Cup, which is a possibility in Boston.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's still weird to me, especially because they were already over the cap or at the cap limit. Like, it's just baffling to me to see Chara going there. Like, I wasn't expecting that. So, hey, you know what? I hope he plays well, because Zdeno Chara is one of those guys that, like, you can't hate him. No matter what team he plays for, you just can't hate him, because he's not a dirty player. He's not anything bad like that. Like, he's not like Marchand. Marchand. No one likes Marchand.
He just plays, and he could fire the puck, and he's obviously great positionally, big player, obviously. So he takes players out, and he doesn't crush anybody because he doesn't have to. He just plays really well positionally, and you're not getting by him because he's so big. It'll be really interesting to see how that works out in Washington, because it's like when Marty Brodeur joined the Blues.
Yeah,
for the last portion of his career.
Why?
It's gonna be that really weird look, like, oh, like, and especially for those teams that aren't going to play Washington, which is 3/4 of the league this year.
Yeah,
it's going to be kind of a forgotten thing if this is a one and done type situation, which you probably have to think it is. So,
yeah,
really interesting times there. Something else that's come up with the World Juniors going on is people kind of getting all up in arms about the amount of blowouts in the round robin. And then I kind of see the other side of it, and I see a lot of broadcasters getting on this train where they're saying, well, these teams are happy to be there. They want to be there. They'd rather not get blown out, but they wouldn't trade the experience just because they're going to get blown out. I don't know I don't necessarily watch the World Juniors, so I can't make a really fair comment on this, but where do you sit on this, Nick, as far as maybe less teams in the World Juniors to avoid blowouts, or leave it as is?
You know what? I like the tournament as is. I totally get the not wanting blowouts, because honestly, like, it's not fun for either team when you're up by 8 goals.
Especially,
I know they say like that the winning team is having fun because they're scoring, they're getting a chance to do plays and stuff like that. But at a certain point, it's not fun for them either, because like they know, most of them know what it's like to be on the other side, from especially those players who play in the CHL where the scores are like 10-8 or 10-0. Like, you know what it's like. You hate that feeling. And when you're up by that many, you're just like, okay, like we need to stop. But at the same time, you can't, because then the other team, it makes the other team feel worse for stopping. Like it's a mess. So I get not wanting to have those, but you can't change the format of the tournament. Like the tournament is so ingrained as is, and you still get these upsets. Like there's the German team a couple years ago when Draisaitl was there. No one expected anything from that team, and they went out and upset. I can't remember who they upset, but they showed well. You don't get that if you minimize the number of teams in the tournament. Like that never happens. You'll get the same 5 teams, and then one new one is what they've been preaching. It's like, I don't like that.
How many teams are in the tournament? It's an 8-team tournament or 12?
10.
It's 10. Okay, and then 8 go on to the
so
round.
10 teams, 8 go on, and then 2 teams play off to see who gets relegated.
Yeah, I'm personally fine with that. I don't see why we need to exclude more teams and hope that they grow and somehow make it back to that level without facing that competition, right? Yeah. Like you look at Switzerland or Germany or Austria when they've made it, or any of those teams, Kazakhstan. You want to talk about those teams, Latvia. It's like, here's your goal. It's to compete with these teams, get there. And if you start excluding them from the World Juniors, then there's not that goal. It's beat these teams that are in your undergroup. And it's nice to get to the World Juniors. So
yeah, and I mean, like you even look at this year, there's already been an upset. So I don't get what the big deal is. I understand that the teams don't like getting blown out, and you know what? I wouldn't want to get blown out either. But the Czech team beat the Russians.
Yeah.
And they played great in that game. Now, they played absolutely awful the other 2 games around that game, because they got blown out by the States and they got blown out by Sweden. But in that game against Russia, they looked really, really good.
The only time in international competition, I think, where I want to see the teams brought down is when it's best on best. And that's only when the NHL puts together a World Cup. And I just want to see 6 teams, like how they used to do the Canada Cup in the 80s. They had 6 teams, and it was the 6 that you're thinking of. And then they'd just go to a 4-team semifinal, followed by a 2 out of 3.
Hold on. Who's the 6 that I'm thinking of? Because I got Canada, U.S., Russia, Sweden, Finland.
And Czechs.
You have the Czechs?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they at the pro level, they have to be there, right?
I'd trade the Czechs for Team Europe so we can get Draisaitl in
it. That was just goofy to me. Like, I don't...
No, but I mean, like, in that, if we're going for a 6-team tournament, I wouldn't mind trading that last team for a Team Europe, so you get players like Draisaitl. At the time, there was Kopitar, right? Like, he was the big guy. But you get these players who play in these countries that aren't Czech Republic and could make that Czech team better. I think that would be worth it. But if it's only 6 teams, that's the only time you would do that.
That's fair. So we don't cut down the amount of teams in the World Juniors. I mean, it's a great event. I'm well aware of what it is and what it means to a lot of people, and I just don't get involved. If Canada's in the gold medal game, I'll turn it on and take a look. But other than that, but we don't need to cut down the teams on that.
I love the World Juniors. I love watching it. I think it's one of the best tournaments.
It's a great event. Everyone's home around that time for Christmas, so you can it doesn't matter if the games are in Europe and they're afternoon games. You can have them on and people will watch, right? So it's a great tournament, and I don't think we need to start taking out teams, and I don't think that'll necessarily make it any better. Nick, are you ready to preview the Central Division?
What about the outdoor games? You're going to just throw away the outdoor game news? There's 2 games going on at Lake Tahoe.
This came across the 20 Minutes on Ice desk not too long ago. I totally blanked on this. But 2 outdoor games planned for the 2021 season.
I can't let you get by without mentioning Colorado in a show. So that's how I got into it.
Who are the 4 teams? I heard Vegas. You're saying
so
Colorado.
It's Vegas, Colorado. It looks like they're going to be playing February 20th. And then Philadelphia, Boston the next day.
and no fans expected. It's more just supposed to be promoting like an outdoor environment, right? It's going to be almost like from what I read, it was, and this is from Sportsnet, almost like it's an outdoor TV studio showcasing the great outdoors. It's going to be with unique camera placements. So
yeah,
and
it's basically like it's beginning. I'm reading an article and it says the NHL is beginning a mystery Alaska experiment. Okay, that's what we'll call it.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, no, it'll be outdoors, no fans. Fans will not be in attendance, with the number of people limited to about 400, basically the team's traveling parties and whoever is needed to work.
Yeah, and I don't think they'll necessarily set up bleachers. It might just be spaced out, and here's some areas to...
Here's some lawn chairs for you.
Try not to freeze. It can be interesting.
I think it'll be... The visual of it will be very, very cool.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's a necessity, and I don't really know why they're doing it. But I mean, hey, do your thing. Like if this is how you're going to get outdoor games, and I know they love the outdoor games, do it. They're using drone cameras too, which will be cool.
That'll be cool. So I mean, hopefully they can discover some new things. They're always trying to come up with ways to create revenue. I mean, we're putting ads on the helmets this year, so that's that's a catastrophe. But it is what it is. They said the same thing about ads on the boards back at the end of the 80s.
You knew it was coming. Let's be honest.
I mean, eventually the jerseys are just going to turn into spaces for ads, kind of like.
I think that will be a lot later. I think pants will be first.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
pants will be first. Jerseys will be the sacred, last ditch. That's the last line in the sand for the NHL.
But it's coming.
It's coming. But that'll be the last line.
So we'll get to that, but so before I miss the outdoor games, which will be very cool, made for TV event, as long as the actual game, regular season game, is not affected. I want to see a hockey game with. I don't want to see
which
gimmicks.
It's been hit and miss in the outdoor games.
Yeah, so and then everything around that actual hockey game can be a made for TV event. Try out some things, see what happens. This is one of those years for it. So
as a broadcast person, I'm really interested to see the angles, the camera placements, the different types of drone cameras. Like for me, that's what I'll be watching. I might not be watching the game specifically, but I will be watching the broadcast ability and what that opens up for future events.
They promised some new camera angles during the return to play.
Yeah.
And I can't say we got the one on the scaffolding up high, right? But if that was it, I mean, there's a lot more ways to create some more imagination there.
Yeah.
So hopefully
we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. I'm going to keep an open mind because this was just announced recently and we really don't have a lot of juicy details. So we don't know where this could go, but maybe there's an event logo coming and we'll see what it looks like. So lots to uncover there.
Yep.
Let's get Now's the time to get.
Now you're allowed. Okay, you can go now.
The Central Division. Central Division consisting of Detroit, Chicago, Columbus, Carolina, Dallas, Tampa Bay, Nashville, Florida Panthers. I think I got all 8 teams there. Detroit. I thought I said Detroit, but this is kind of a mix and match division of teams from all over the regular NHL. Not a lot of, I mean, Detroit, Chicago. That's an old Eastern Conference.
That's an old rivalry.
Rivalry there. I guess we get to see 9. This will be the first time since the original 6 era or around that time where we get to see 9 Stanley Cup final repeat matchups between Tampa Bay and Dallas. I found there's clearly 2 teams here that stand above the other teams. So let's get to our teams that will succeed. Tampa Bay is very obvious. They're just a powerhouse. They really haven't taken away from their Stanley Cup winning roster, and I don't see any reason why they should take a step back.
Yeah, the biggest issue for them is Kucherov being out.
Exactly.
And that is definitely a blow, because he's been kind of that leader over the last couple of years. I know Stamkos is the captain, but Kucherov's been the leader. Like Kucherov and Hedman have been the leader, I should say.
Just like any team, if they can withstand injuries, they'll be fine.
Yeah,
And that can be said for any team. Any team.
Yeah, but I mean, even you take out Kucherov and up and down the lineup, they're still pretty solid. Like, I think you get that Steven Stamkos firepower back that they were missing throughout the playoff run, that, they won the cup. Let's not forget that. It's sort of the until they don't, they are the champions.
Absolutely.
But the back end is solid all the way up and down. Hedman, McDonough, Sergachev, Cernak, Ruda, and Luke Shen right now are the 6 listed on Cap Friendly. I know they have others as well in the system, but like
they're ready to go.
They're ready to go. I know they lost a couple pieces, but nothing too big, so that they'll be fine. And I mean, they also have Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
And probably the best backup goaltender in the league in Curtis McElhinney.
I don't know. Yeah, he was good. I think I don't know if he can.
No, he's the best backup, not 1B, best backup.
Okay, that's fair. Absolutely. The other team that I noted as a team that will succeed, the Dallas Stars, and they're going to be hungry because of the Stanley Cup final loss. So we'll get to this in the predictions, but I feel like Tampa Bay has mastered, and they did it last season, just get through the regular season and get into the playoffs with as many healthy players as you can. In the end, it really doesn't matter that much where you finish in the regular season. You'd love home ice, but as long as you believe in your team and what you can do.
But home ice was useless last year.
Exactly. It didn't mean much there.
Didn't mean anything.
Yeah. But as long as you can get through the season with your players healthy, as healthy as possible, and then do your damage in the playoffs. And I think Tampa Bay has learned that. On the flip side, you got Dallas, who's I think is definitely going to succeed in this division, and they have a goal. They lost the Stanley Cup. They were that close, and they have the desire to come back even stronger. So they're going to be full blast from the get-go, and I wouldn't be surprised if they take the division and Tampa actually finishes second.
Yeah, I think I'm not as high on Dallas as you. The sad thing is I still think they are the second best team in this division, just because I don't like the rest of the division.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not that high on Dallas. Like, Dallas is a good defensive team. I will give them credit for that. They've been very good that way.
Klingberg, Heiskanen, Lindell, Alexiak.
Yeah, their defense is fantastic. It's the offense that I struggle with. Like, Joel Kiviranta is your second line winger with Denis Gurianov and Radek Faksa as the center right now. Like, that doesn't scream second line to me. That's a solid third line, but that doesn't scream second line to me.
Gurianov, I'm not saying he's a goal scorer
he's a goal poacher.
Yeah, but he showed up in the playoffs. Like, his name came up at a timely manner. So you're expecting him to take some sort of leap. I don't know how big it can be.
And I'm fine with that. But as a 23-year-old, he's not at a second line player right now. I think he could get there. He could very well be that second line player. He's just not there for me yet. Joel Kiviranta, the guy who knocked out my Colorado team in Game 7, like, no one knew who he was before the playoffs, and now he's on your second line, right? That's just kind of where I'm like, okay, like, their offense isn't good enough to give me to compete with Tampa. I think that Tampa team is just so far and ahead better than every team in this division. It's not even close. Dallas will be second. Unless something goes terribly wrong and Khudobin and Bishop are both out all year.
Well, Bishop is starting injured? I know Sagan.
Yes, he's starting injured.
Yeah,
but I'm saying, like, all year. Like, if both of them are out all year and they have to rely on Jake Oettinger, okay, then maybe you get a little bit concerned. But other than that, like, I'm not sold on these guys doing anything bigger than that.
We'll have to see. And Rick Bowness, I mean, so the coach is a bit of a question mark. And he obviously got them to the Stanley Cup final, and there was a reason for that. But he was interim coach. And then when he got them onto a deep playoff run, at that point, you have no choice but to kind of say, we got to go with how can we go with someone else after this guy got us that close? So that's
exactly it.
It's kind of a forced coaching choice at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad coaching choice. I think he's actually probably the perfect fit for a young, defensive-minded team.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see.
I do think that, so I think he'll be fine. It's just I don't think he has enough offensive game plan in his head to get the most out of the current roster is where I'm getting at.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So I see Tampa Bay finishing 1 or 2 here and Dallas taking the other spot. I mean, like I mentioned, Tampa Bay is going to pace themselves through the regular season, so I don't think it matters to them whether they're first or second.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of, because they have to play each of these teams so many times, will they beat up enough on a team like Detroit or Chicago or Florida and just gain those automatic wins, and that'll be enough just to put them in first place. Tampa Bay may pace themselves and still end up in first place. So
yeah, that's fair.
There's a big.
Can I add my other team that I think will do well?
Okay, yeah.
All right. The other team that I think will do well is Columbus. Well-coached team. Their defense is very, very similar to the Dallas Six. 2 top-line guys, very good second-line guys, and pretty good third-line guys all the way through. They have more of a question mark in the goaltending area just because you don't actually – the only reason I say that is because you're not sure who the number 1 actually is in Columbus right now. I know they keep saying it's Korpisalo, but then Merzlikins comes in and plays really well, and then it's Merzlikins for a while, and then it's back to Korpisalo. Like, you just don't really know who the number 1 is because they both probably could be a number 1. But because they keep flipping back and forth, neither have had a chance to really grab onto it. Let's not forget they also added Max Domi in the offseason. They added Mikko Koivu, which is a huge veteran presence. I know he's not the player he used to be, but that leadership is something that Columbus looks like they have been missing the last couple of years. So bringing him in is good. And they also added Mikhail Grigorenko. So now their 4 centers are Dubois, Domi, Koivu, and Grigorenko. That's a solid up 1 through 4 center wise. So I'm not too concerned about them up the middle. It's just wondering if they're going to score goals.
I picked them as my surprise team. I think they could finish higher than where we may expect them to finish. I'm not sold. Like, Pierre-Luc Dubois just recently signed 2-year contract to stay in Columbus. That doesn't sound like a player who's committed to really make things and be the star in Columbus. So I'm kind of concerned about something there. They traded away Wenberg because it sounded like he was in Tortorella's doghouse there, and I think that's going to end up being a bit of a mistake. Not that necessarily was going to work now in Columbus, but I think that one may end up being a loss on their part. Because, again, I'm not sold on how Tortorella and Domi are going to work together. 2 strong personalities, and while they may try and be professional to begin with, I think all that effort may end up breaking down the relationship. So Columbus, for me, I put them in my surprise category because they have a lot of pieces there. Will they all work together is the question.
That's
and
fair.
Will they
That's
work?
fair.
Will they work enough to bump them up into kind of the top tier of the division?
Yeah, I think if things go right in Columbus, they're pushing Dallas for 2.
Very interesting.
But I think Dallas gets 2 regardless.
Did you have a surprise team? I went with Columbus. You went with Columbus as a team you think will succeed. Do you have any surprises from the Central?
I'm debating on 2 if I want to call them surprises. I'm not really sure if they make the surprise list necessarily.
Well, do they have potential to surprise?
They have potential for sure, and I think it's Carolina is probably the one that I'm going to go with. We've talked about defense, and guess what? There's going to be another defensive stalwart in the Central Division because every team in the Central Division is either going to be a defensive stalwart or bad. Because think about it, Dallas, we just talked about Columbus. Let's add Carolina in. Jacob Slavin, Dougie Hamilton, your top line, Brady Shea, Brett Pesci as your second line, and Jake Gardner and Hayden Fleury as your third line. Your worst player, your worst defenseman is Jake Gardner.
And they were comfortable enough in their D to let go of Edmondson, Trevor Van Riemsdyk, and Vatanen. All is gone.
Their oldest defenseman is also Jake Gardner at 30. Everyone else is 27 years old or younger. Like, They are solid 1 through 6 on defense, and up front they have goal scoring ability with Svechnikov, Aho, Teravainen, all could put the puck in the net. We saw Dzingel last year came out, was able to score goals. Vincent Trocheck can as well. So you're not there. It's just going to be whether or not they can be consistent enough on the offensive end to back up the defense. And you're going to wonder what happens in net. This is a team this is probably the one team in the division that you have no idea who the goalie is. Maybe Chicago.
Yeah.
But other than that, every other team, you kind of know who the goalie is, or at least what's going to happen. I'm really not sure who's going to take number one in this team. I know Mrazek is supposed to, but I don't trust Mrazek as far as I can throw him.
I trust Mrazek as much as I trust Reimer. I
think I actually trust Reimer more because of all the crap that he went through in Toronto.
I think they are good for short stints, 2-3 weeks, and then you got to go with the next guy. But that's not really going to work in the playoffs. It can work, but the odds of it working in the playoffs are not strong. You need the guy to carry the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And go through. So I think that's where they fall apart. Their forward group is a question mark for me. They didn't really add to that group, and they got taken care of pretty easily by Boston in the return to play. They added Jesper Fast, and apparently this is a big analytics move. He fits right in, apparently, with everything Carolina is looking for. But again, it's just Svechnikov has to take an even bigger jump, which he's more than capable of, and become just an elite goal scorer, which we've seen flashes of. He can do it. He's going to be one of those electric players in the league. So he's got to make that jump. Everything's got to work again for the Hurricanes, but I do have them finishing in the playoff picture. So we'll see where that goes. Let's look at teams who are just going to fall flat on their ass, and we may have the same teams here. I have Detroit and Chicago. I expect nothing from these teams. They're not going anywhere, especially Chicago. This could be a disaster season for them.
Well, I want you to explain why this will be a disaster season. So you go ahead, and okay. I'll jump in after.
Chicago's I know they made the return to play, and that was more on we have to include everyone who's still sort of mathematically involved, and they played well against Edmonton. But they've let go. Crawford's gone. I don't even know who they're going with this year.
Malcolm Subban or Colin Delia.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, good luck with that. Taves, we have no clue when he's going to be back. Kirby Doc.
Out for the year.
Yeah, 4 or 5 months. So that's more looking at a playoff situation, which they're not making the playoffs. So now it all rests on Patrick Kane, I guess. And he can't do it. He can't do it by himself. They have an aging defensive group. They don't have enough young stars. And that's what I think this season's going to be about. Finishing low and getting a good draft pick. And they've already told their fans and set the expectations in the dressing room that this is a rebuilding year. You're not expected to do well this year. So that's
I get what you're saying there. I mean, I saw a lot of good things in the playoff run from this team. I know they just beat Edmonton and then lost in the next round, but I saw some very good things, some good chemistry from the team that I think they won't finish last. But yeah, they're going to be at the bottom of the division just because they're so hurt. When you lose 2 of your top players from last year in Dak and Taves, it's sad to say Dak was one of their best players last year, but he was. He was.
He's expected to take a jump this year, and it didn't happen.
That's a very unfortunate injury. Yeah. But when you lose 2 guys like that before the season even starts, you're automatically in the hole. And let's not forget, Alex Nylander is also hurt.
Right. I've already labeled him as a flop. I don't think he's going anywhere.
I don't know. I think he has, in the right system, I think he has the potential to be a good player, like a second line scorer sort of thing. But in Buffalo, it was not the right system for him. So then the fact that he got to Chicago, I actually think he will succeed in Chicago, but we'll have to see how that goes. I'm not convinced that it's going to be as bad of a year as it should be for them, just because I think they have enough heart in that, especially with Malcolm Subban, who's now on his 4th team.
Yeah,
he's going to have to try to prove, because he actually has a chance to be a number 1 this year. This is the first time he will ever have a chance to be a number 1 in the NHL. He has to prove that he can do it.
And has he really proved that he's been a backup? Boston never wanted to take the leap with him. Vegas upgraded. They went with Lehner and Fleury.
So that's not really his fault. They upgraded to Lehner.
That's fine. But I mean, if he was ready to go as a number one, they may have given him a look.
Yeah, I believe that cheaper as well. But
yeah.
I'm just saying, like, this is his chance now. He gets the chance. So he's going to try to take it. The decor is actually not that old, really. Like, yes, you have Keith and Seabrook, but everyone else is under the age of 30. And they also have Adam Boqvist, who's going to probably play top line with Duncan Keith. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes out. And they added Zadorov from Colorado, who, like, obviously I watched him play a lot, and I think he's a very, very solid defenseman.
Yeah, I forgot.
So adding him is a good move.
He's a good hitter too, I believe, Zadorov, isn't he?
Oh, he's an absolute animal.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I forgot about that pickup. So that's a decent pickup. I still don't think they have the pieces and the mentality.
No.
Walking in is just in shambles. Who do you have on your failure list for the Central Division?
Again, I'm kind of doing the same thing that I did with the West. I don't necessarily know if if you can deem it a failure like Los Angeles, but Detroit will be at the bottom of this division in my mind, and it just comes down to they are really far into a rebuild that they are not ready for. They added a couple good pieces in the offseason. I mean, again, another former Colorado guy in Vlad Nemestikov. I like him. I think he's a solid pick. Bobby Ryan, I think, is a sneaky pickup this offseason. I think he could be a very big piece, especially a guy who's gone through so much. He can help teach the young guys in the team, like, how to handle stuff, how to deal with certain adversity going through the season, even if it's not a good season. But that goaltending tandem of Thomas Greiss and Jonathan Bernier, I don't like that.
I think they go with Greiss over Bernier. Like,
they do, but that's not really saying a whole lot.
No. They're upgrading slowly, and it just seems like a bunch of treading water maneuvers. Like they picked up Mark Stahl, and he's kind of at the back end of things. Like I don't expect dynamite from him. They picked up Troy Stetcher. I like that pickup on the back end as well.
I was going to say they added Stetcher. They added John Merrill as well from Vegas, who I think that's another sneaky pickup as well. But their defense is their best part of their team, and it's still not solid 1 through 6. There's like 4 good defensemen on that rotation, and then 2 guys that's like, okay, they're fine. But
I think they've done enough to not embarrass themselves again this year.
Exactly.
But they haven't done enough to make the playoffs or compete for a playoff spot, I would say. And I see Yzerman as a smart GM, and I think he knows that. It's more of I would say the pickups are more a service to the fans. Like, we're trying to do something, but it's okay if we don't make the playoffs and get another good pick here coming up.
Yeah, and I think, like, you look at some of the guys that they have in the system, right? Like, if we're talking guys who will not play this year but are in the system, Michael Rasmussen will be a very, very good player in the NHL, I think, based on my watching of him. You've got Philip Larson, the goaltender. He'll be good. You got Veleno, like Joseph Veleno, who was on Team Canada last year at the World Juniors. He showed out well. Mo Seider, Victor Bratstrom, sorry. I always get that wrong. Those are good guys. Oh, yeah. Lucas Raymond, also a top prospect from the Swedish team. Like, you have these huge names that are coming up in a couple years. They're not there yet.
And Yzerman grew up in the Detroit era where they were more than willing to be extra patient with prospects. Which
exactly.
I don't know if you can do anymore. You need guys who are young, and I don't know if you can afford to be patient, but I would think that's affecting Yzerman's decisions. I think he would be okay with being patient, and I think that's what they're showing by bringing in the players that they brought in.
I think he's also smart enough to realize, like, okay, like, we can't force these guys, like, especially some of the European guys like Mo Seider, who looks good but is just not there yet at 19. Like, just give him another year. Like, don't worry about him. Give him another year. It'll be fine.
Let them become overripe. So
exactly.
We will come right back. We will give our predictions for the Central Division, who's going to make the playoffs, who's going to miss, and we'll also get to the randomizer. That's coming up. Welcome back. 20 minutes on ice. We're previewing the Central Division, the 2021 NHL Central Division. We've given our thoughts on most of the teams. Let's go through our predictions now and how everyone will finish. Nick, we'll start with the teams that you think are going to miss the playoffs in the Central Division.
Miss the playoffs. All right. Well, we just talked about the two at the bottom for me. Detroit will be 8th in my mind. Not much further ahead will be Chicago. They're just, those two teams are just far away, the two worst teams in this division. Next up, I think I have Nashville at 6, and then I have Florida at 5. Now, those two can be interchanged, but I have zero faith in Nashville. This is the year that they need to get something out of Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson, or else that whole experiment needs to be just cut off, and they need to go a different direction, because those two guys have done nothing since going to Nashville, and that was their chance to do something big, and they just can't figure it out.
Yeah.
So that's the thing there, and they added a couple good pieces in Nashville, and like Haula. I like Haula. I think he's a good player, but it's just not enough to jump off the page and be like, oh, I like these guys. It's just not there.
They have the aura of a sinking ship. And I mean, UC Saros, again, everyone is supposed to be something, but they're not now.
Nashville.
On Nashville, yeah. And they've been saying this about Johansson almost since his Columbus days. Like, they wanted more. And Columbus was smart. They moved him on potential, and they got Seth Jones out of that deal. I mean, that's a killer for Nashville. But
not that Nashville's really hurting on the defensive end, but
they're fine. They have the Norris Trophy winner on their team, but that's not going to be enough. I also have Nashville missing the playoffs. We have the same 4 missing the playoffs. I have Chicago. I'm committed to Chicago finishing last.
As he wears the jersey.
Yeah, exactly. And then Detroit above them. Florida. I don't like Florida. I mean, I think the only bright spot there. Huberdeau. I like Huberdeau. He's actually a superstar in the league who's unfortunately buried in Florida. And I like their coach there as well.
No Barkov? Come on, man.
I do like Barkov. Great two-way player, but not a flashy superstar. Huberdeau would be talked about a whole bunch more if he wasn't playing in Florida. And that guy's committed to helping Florida succeed. So I have Florida in 6th and Nashville in 5th in this division. Let's go to our playoff teams, Nick.
Playoffs? All right. Again, I think we've talked about all 4 of my playoff teams already. So I'm just gonna round them out quickly. I got Carolina at 4, Columbus at 3, Dallas at 2, and Tampa at number 1. One other thing I want to point out, because I love Barkov. I think he's a great player. This guy's 1 year removed from a 92-point season. Don't give me the crap that he doesn't put up points. That guy is a legitimate number 1 center and deserves recognition, Ryan.
Yeah, you're not going to get recognized in Florida, though. I'll tell you that.
No, I know, but from you.
All right, I will keep Barkov on my radar this year. We'll have a Barkov watch going forward. So
Barkov watch.
Bum, bum, bum.
10 points in the first 10 games. Barkov watch.
This has been your Barkov watch. I have the same 4 teams as you. I have Columbus in 4th. I have Carolina in 3rd. And I think it'll be more, as opposed to Columbus pushing Carolina for that 3rd spot, I more see Columbus and Nashville battling it out for that final playoff spot, with Florida sneaking in there. I think it'll be very close, but I got Columbus coming away at 4th, Carolina 3rd, Dallas 2nd, and it's just hard to ignore Tampa at 1st. But as I was talking about in the previous segment, Tampa could just be pacing themselves, and I wouldn't be surprised if they finish 2nd. So,
also wouldn't be surprised if they finish 1st while pacing themselves and not actually caring about because this division just isn't very good. Like, I'll be honest with you, outside of Tampa, this division's not great. Dallas is fine, but I don't think they're going to repeat what they did last year in the playoffs. Like, I just don't see it happening.
I see 4 tiers here. Tampa's in the top tier. Dallas is in their own tier. And then you have Carolina, Columbus, Nashville, and Florida all grouped together there. And then you got Detroit and Chicago. See you guys later. Come back next year. We'll see how that goes.
Yep.
All right, that was our Central Division preview. We will be doing the entire NHL. So coming up on Tuesday, we will be doing the East. That's what they're calling it, right, Nick? The East? I'm not
Yes, they're calling it the East.
Not the Atlantic, not the Metropolitan. They're calling it the East. I like the
East, Central, West, and North are the 4 divisions, Ryan. Get it together.
I will get it together when the season starts.
No, you won't.
All right. See, this is why I brought you, the younger person, on to help steer me in the proper direction when my memory can't.
The stat head. Yes, I know.
All right, Nick, we are ready. Let's hit the randomizer. Today we're going to be doing Heat It or Cool It. So this is where Nick and I come up with essentially headlines or statements, and it's up to the other host to decide whether or not they want to heat that up and go along with it, or cool it down and just shut it down and not agree at all with the statement. Nick, I got one ready. Do you have one ready? I got
one ready, but you go ahead, my friend. You go ahead.
If his career ended right now, Connor McDavid is a Hall of Famer. Heat it or cool it?
No.
You're cool.
He's a fantastic player. I just don't. I think because he hasn't played enough, you can't really put him in the Hall of Fame.
How about
the talent-wise? Yeah, absolutely. But
he hasn't, there's been not a lot of success there. It's
what success? They made the playoffs, twice? In his...
Yeah, well, that was the qualifying round that they lost. So technically they made the playoffs once.
Okay, so there you go. You're making my point a little bit better. They've made the playoffs one time. It's not enough for me to say, yes, he is. He's a Hall of Famer already. Like, the talent-wise, absolutely. I don't think anyone will argue that he is more talented than over half of the people in the Hall of Fame right now. But talent isn't what the Hall of Fame is about. It's about talent and accolades and everything that you've done in your career. He hasn't done enough in his career. Not to mention he's also been hurt, which doesn't help.
Yeah. So
I will cool that.
Okay, Nick's cooling it down. So I remember having the same discussion internally when Crosby and Ovechkin were at the same point in their careers and thinking, yeah, they'd probably be Hall of Famers. So guess McDavid, not there yet. Go ahead, Nick, with your first Heat It or Cool It.
All right, I actually made a new one while we were talking about Florida because you absolutely butchered Barkov. So, Ryan, heat it or cool it. Barkov will lead the Florida Panthers in points, not goals, points this season.
No, I'm gonna cool it, and that's only because Huberdeau's there, and I really do. I believe in Huberdeau. I'm not saying I don't believe in Barkov.
Sounds like what you're saying.
I think Barkov is an exceptionally solid player. What I'm saying is Jonathan Huberdeau is a superstar, hidden or buried in Miami, and I think if he was playing with the Rangers or the Bruins or even the Hawks or the Wings or someone more northeasternly, then people would be talking about Jonathan Huberdeau. So I like him to lead the Panthers in scoring. I like Barkov to be second, but Huberdeau to take the scoring title this year with the Panthers, definitely.
Okay, I'm just confirming this. Give me 1 second.
I'm sure.
Barkov's led the team 3 out of the last 4 years.
That's fine. I told you I'm a Huberdeau believer. I'm on the Jonathan Huberdeau train.
Okay, whatever you say.
We'll revisit that one. Write that one down. We'll revisit that one. Barkov or Huberdeau, who's going to lead the Panthers?
Barkov more points because Nick is right.
All right, heat it or cool it, and this is a bit of a two-parter, but we'll just go with what it is. Heat it or cool it. There will be less injuries this year because of a smaller schedule, but there will be more injuries next year because of less summertime.
No, there will be more injuries this year.
Why?
Because of the condensed schedule.
I can sort of.
They don't have as much time to recover.
I can sort of see that.
Then there will be as many injuries the next season because it's a less of a recovery time in the summer once again.
I definitely. So we're kind of agreed that there's going to be more injuries next year.
There's going to be more injuries this season. That's my concern.
I don't see.
I don't think that far ahead. I think this season there will be more injuries.
There will be some people that won't be able to stand up to the condensed schedule. I'm looking at younger players in that situation.
But that's the thing. Young, dumb players are going to be putting themselves in stupid situations and getting themselves hurt by accident. I'm not saying it's going to be because people are going out of their way to like run people in the short schedule. And don't forget, we're also getting rivalry games a lot more rivalry games. You're playing the same team 9 times. There's going to be some.
They're all rivalry games.
Animosity is the word I'm going to use.
Yes.
So maybe by the end of the season, we're going to see a lot more dirty games where there's a lot more fights and guys are going to hurt their hands. They're going to hit their heads and stuff like that. That's where it becomes, there's going to be more injuries.
All right. We will see where that one goes. Definitely. Nick, you got another heat it or cool it?
Yeah, we'll stick with the Central Division here. Heat it or cool it, UC Saros will be the number 1 goalie in Nashville by the season end.
Oh, I'm going to heat that up. I think he's already the number 1 there. And I think people talk about Pecorine like he's the 1B. I think he's already the 2, and you better have another plan right now because his play is about to drastically drop off. I feel he is at the end of the road. This is it for him. If he was at the end of a contract, he would have been gone. It's UC Saros's net right now, so I'm definitely going to heat that up, and I don't know if that's a good thing for the Nashville Predators. I thought Saros was good, fine in the return to play. He got outplayed by Darcy Kemper though when Nashville played Arizona.
Yeah, but is that really a bad thing? Like Kemper played really, really well in that in that matchup.
Yeah, and that's why it'll be interesting to see what Saros can do. If they just give him the number 1 job and say, go, this is what you're expected to do. And we'll see where he lands. But I think he's already the number 1 there, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I'm going to heat that one up. All right.
I have one more if you don't have one.
I have one more, and then we'll do your final one, and then we'll
wrap it up.
Sound the horn and wrap it up there. A typical NHL season should feature more divisional matchups like this season does. Heat it or cool it.
I know what you want me to say.
I just want to know. I'm a big divisional guy. Like,
I know.
I was a kid when like the Chuck Norris division was around and the Smythe division and Patrick and Adams. And it was all about competing against your own division. And then once you got through that, seeing how well you could do.
Yeah. And I totally get that. I like how the NHL has been the last few years where you get to see every team twice, once at home, once on the road, just because you get to see teams that you normally, like you used to not be able to see. Like, as I'm going to use this as an example because I am a Colorado fan. You know that. Growing up as a kid, the Leafs and the Avalanche very rarely played.
Yep.
Right. So for me, it was kind of like I had to go out of my way to watch the Colorado game when I could never watch them play my other team. So I like the fact that they play each other twice a year. It's a chance for me to watch teams that I normally wouldn't get a chance to watch. Like Arizona the last couple of years, I've got a lot more opportunities to watch them because they're playing teams out in the East. I get to see the Kings, the Stars, the Sharks, right? It becomes a way for the NHL to continue to grow the brand everywhere. You could be a Los Angeles Kings fan in New York. Right. So I don't think divisional matchups need to be upped if they're keeping an 82-game schedule because I like the 2 games against every team.
So how about a situation where you do play, okay, let's say Seattle's in the league next year, as they will be. We're at 32 teams. Every team has 8, every division, has 8 teams in it. So now you have 24 other teams who are not in your division, and I'll give you a 1 home, 1 road against them. So that's 48 games in your schedule, and now you have to fill the other, what are we looking at? I can't do quick math here. 34 games. 34 games within your own division. How about a schedule like that? Where it's all divisional play, and then you do 1 each against the rest of the league. And
you mean 2 each against the rest of the league?
Sorry, I meant 1 home, 1 away. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
2 each.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm totally okay with that. I just want to be able to play. I want to see every team every year.
Yeah,
there was years where Colorado would never come out east, and it was just not cool. Like I want to see every team every year. Seeing them twice is better. 1 home, 1 away, and then play the rest of the divisional games. Yeah, that's fine. I'm totally okay with that.
I think with the price of tickets, you absolutely have to have every team come through every building at least once a year.
You should. Yeah. That's not how it used to be, though. We're talking like 10 years ago where that was not a thing.
Yeah, you would cycle through there were 6 divisions, and you'd cycle through which divisions in the other conference you played.
Yeah.
And there would always be one left out there. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I like divisional play. So that would be my idea. And I totally understand that would not be floating for the majority of people. So
Yeah.
Finish us off here, Nick. Heat it or cool it.
All right, Ryan, this is a big one. Heat it or cool it. Tampa Bay repeats as Cup champions.
This is a good one. I was thinking about it this year, or today actually, and I was thinking, will the shortened season benefit Tampa Bay and give them more of a chance to repeat? And they had pretty much an off season before they went through the playoffs, and now they've had a full off season after the playoffs. Not really a shortened one like the Stanley Cup champion usually has, and it's not like they've had a summer of parties and all that kind of stuff. So there might be some benefits there. They're in a really weak division, and
very weak, as we just talked about.
I feel like the only thing that would cool this down is that teams don't really repeat. Pittsburgh was the last team to repeat in the last 20 some odd years.
Yep.
And that would be the only thing cooling it down, is teams just don't repeat.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. I see no reason not to heat this up. Let's heat it up, Nick.
Let's heat it.
Tampa
Let's
Bay
do it.
to repeat this year. I like that. Let's go with that, because I can't think of any other team that is going to.
I don't think they repeat, but okay. You can heat it up.
Maybe Colorado. Tampa, Colorado final. We're still gunning for it. Who knows?
That'd be awesome.
Could be anybody, right? They're going to be reseeded in the semifinals.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I really don't know how that'll work. But anyways, regardless, I think heating it up is an interesting take. I don't think they repeat, just because, as you said, it's so hard to repeat. But
that's because the wear and tear of a full schedule and a full playoff after you've just done it. And I think there's more breaks this year, and there's less of a schedule to get through. There's still the same amount of playoffs. So
absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I'm heating it up there. So that was a good one. I really liked that one. That was a really good one. Heating it up. Tampa Bay to repeat. That brings an end to this 20 Minutes on Ice. Be sure to subscribe to the show and give us a like on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan_H16 and Nick on Twitter at Nick McVicker. And don't forget to follow the show at 20 Minutes on Ice on both Twitter and Instagram. Head on over to GarageDoorSports.com and find us under the shows tab. We will be back on Friday previewing the East Division. Thank you for listening. Goodbye, everybody.